Hello everyone, this is Luis Rodriguez. We're here at Tia Chucha Centro Cultural in the Northeast San Fernando Valley in somewhere. And this is going to be a very great, amazing event. I have my good friend Gregory Bojorquez, who is one of the best photographers in my view, especially of the barrio.
Thanks.
And this is coming because we've done some work together, and his works have actually graced a couple of my books, 2 or 3 of my books. So I really love what he does. And what we're going to do is have an exchange. We'll have a slideshow, and he'll talk, but then I'll add, because a lot of the East Side, East LA, I spent many years in. So just to be clear, been here over 22 years in the Valley, so I'm a Valley boy now. But my roots are in Watts and San Gabriel Valley and East LA. And I love every place I lived in, because there's barrio everywhere, you know what I'm saying? And I love all our gente, no matter where they're at. So I'm proud to be from the Valley, and I'm also proud to be from Watts. I'm also proud from being San Gabriel Valley, as well as East LA and Boyle Heights and all these communities we're going to talk about. So one thing you should know, the book is for sale. It's a limited edition, beautiful book. You can see it here. The photography is amazing. I wrote the foreword. He invited me to write the foreword, which I was honored to do. And you can also order it online. So if you put tiachucha.org/bookstore, you can get to the book and you can order it online for anybody. So I'm gonna just introduce my brother by saying, I'm honored to know you, brother, because we've been working together for a long time. I think, as I said in the book, he paints with a camera. He writes with a camera. He does art with his camera. His camera doesn't just see, but it also has a spirit. And you can tell when you see his photographs. And he also lived in my old neighborhood, so we have roots there, and he's lived in neighborhoods that I used to live in, so we have a lot of journeys that we could talk about, some history that I think we're going to share too, about our gente, some of the good and bad things that have happened in the barrio there over on the east side. On the east side, we're talking both Boyle Heights, Lincoln Heights, East LA, that incorporate. I don't like to divide them. I know people get divided. We're all the same, you know what I'm saying? I get it, I get all the politics, but my thing is we're all the same gente. And people here, by the way, in this part of the valley, have family in East LA. There's people that lived in East LA that now live here, because I know I meet them all the time. So we're all connected, estamos conectados. So that's the first thing. Anyway, Gregory, I want to get you to say a few words about yourself. And then
Well, I've been taking pictures for a while now, and it's something I do. And this is a project that I started when I first started taking photos, so I wasn't really working as a photographer, but I knew this whole culture going on in East LA as a kid. At that time, I knew it was something I had to take pictures of, because it was not going to be the same. And I was in a unique spot, and I just knew I had to take pictures of it, and that's what I started doing. Luis, I read his book, Always Running, when I was a kid, and right away I just really loved it, because he talks about Garvey Park. And Garvey Park, and I think that's South San Gabriel. When I was in kindergarten, my first best friend was this guy named Bernard, and his father, like the first time we hung out, we went to the Garvey Park plunge, and like that was like the first time we hung out. So immediately when I read that, it just brought back like a really good memory. And he wrote about different parts of the city that I was familiar with, and I really liked it. And even in a book like Music in the Mill, yeah, he writes about the Bethlehem steel mill. And I remember when I was a kid, I had a cousin that lived in Southgate, and I remember like the whole outlook of the neighborhood was different. There was a lot of white people. Like his best friend was named Doug. It was but people had these jobs with Bethlehem Steel, and there was a Chevrolet plant.
There's big industry.
So yeah. I felt connected with his books. Kind of like I mean when I was a kid, I would wreck my car a lot, and I'd have to take the bus, or I'd have my license taken, or I'd have to take the bus. So I'd read books. So I read like Raymond Chandler, The Big Sleep, and he writes about LA. And I read James Elroy, and he writes about LA. and I felt connected to this. It's Charles Bukowski, he wrote about LA, but Luis was much the same, you know, so I felt, you know, what's wrong with me just shooting what's around me, you know, and that's what I know, and that's what they kind of did, you know, and, you know, I just started shooting this project, and when I was doing it, I was telling people it was going to be a book, and it didn't happen until 20 years later, you know, but it finally came to fruition, and I'm very happy with it, and I was really happy that Luis did the forward. I think he did like a really good job, you know, he's a great writer, and I'm really happy that that he did that for me, and I really appreciate it.
Well, we got to support each other because, you know, we got a lot of talent in our neighborhoods. We got to stand up for each other. We got to make sure there's venues and places that can recognize our work, and this is why we're doing this, to recognize what you've done, brother. So you want to go ahead, you can start with the slideshow.
All right, well, let me see. Well, at this point in my life, it was 1992, and I was going to junior college, but I was mostly just showing up and having lunch and like buying the books. And I had a job part-time at UPS, and I had another job part-time at a camera store, so I had access to cameras and film and stuff. So I always had a camera with some film, and you know, this was a guy I met when I was 15 years old. His name's Jack, and I met him when I was 15. He was the coolest guy. He had a fake ID at 15, so he was 21. He would go to bars, and like this, by this time, 92, I was already about 19, 20 years old. So like at this point, we were probably gonna take off somewhere to a spot that served beer to minors, and you know, so I'm photographing, hanging out. The next. And at the time, you know, I'd shoot black and white, I'd shoot color, and this was a car show that was going on at Garfield High School. And everybody was like saying, oh man, there's gonna be like, something's gonna happen at Garfield, and this and that. And I actually went with my dad, and we hung out, we went to this car show, and nothing happened. It was just a peaceful day, and it was great. But I don't know if there's been any more car shows at Garfield High School, but this was like the beginning, you know, and I was hanging out with my dad. So, you know, it's just hanging out. You know, I'm taking pictures, hanging out with my friends and family. Next. Oh, and you know, people look at the book and they see this grave marker, and they don't know what this grave marker means, you know, but John Garcia, that's my Grandpa John, you know, and he's buried at the Resurrection Cemetery. Like both sides of my family, like everyone's there. This is very close to where Luis grew up, in the borders of Montebello, South San Gabriel, Potrero
We
Grande.
used to call it the Homeboy Cemetery because homeboys from East LA, San Gabriel Valley buried their whole kinds of neighborhoods. You can find them all over there.
So I could go there and like, you know, I'd ask in the front, the people where all the graves are, and I could see so many people from my family. But my Grandpa John, you know, he was in Boyle Heights from like the 20s, and he went to World War II, and he fought at Normandy in the Battle of the Bulge, like these big battles that are on the History Channel, you know, and it's just amazing that he was there and he survived. And in the basement, I looked through all his stuff, and he has a photo of all from his Veterans of Foreign War Post, and it's so many guys, you know. So I gotta imagine like every guy that was of age at Boyle Heights at that time went and fought in that war, you know. And it's I don't know, I guess for Chicanos that had grandparents and stuff that fought in wars and stuff, there's like a little more patriotism going on, you know.
There's actually a street in East LA, Laverne, that had more veterans of war than any other street in the country. I mean, our guys, our people have fought in every major war in this country.
Go to the next photo. And shortly after the war, this is the house in Boyle Heights that my Grandpa John bought in 1948. He was out of the war, and then he got a job at the post office, and he worked at the post office with the annex, which is across the street from Philippe's on Alameda. And he worked at that annex till 1974 when he retired, you know, and he'd take the bus from this house. And in this house, my mother was raised. She was born before 4 years. My mother was born in 52, so that was 4 years before my grandfather even bought this house. So when I was a kid and everything growing up, I mean, I lived there. This was a house that was, you know, I spent a lot of time at, and it's very special to me. And people might look through the book and just see a house, you know what I mean? But that's the house my mom grew up in. And just maybe a 5-minute walk away on First and Fresno, this was where my father grew up. So, you know, my parents lived like a 5-minute walk away from each other, and they met when they were teenagers, and they're still together. They're 70 years old, and they just had their 52nd wedding anniversary on New Year's Eve. But this was where my Grandpa Al lived, and my Grandpa Al was a very unique person. He claims to be the first Mexican in East LA to own a brand new Cadillac. Steven Steakhouse. He was friends with Mr. Steven, and he knew friends in construction. And when Mr. Steven wanted to build the ballroom, my Grandpa Al, who went by Al Soto, because that was the big street, he went by Al Soto, and he helped build that ballroom. So in the 90s, when the Raiders would play on Monday Night Football and it was blacked out, and you had to spend $10 to watch it in satellite, like, he helped build that ballroom. And I even have letters at the house. He took mail at Steven's Steakhouse. So
all the workers that I know that were around that industry, we all ended up at Steven's Steakhouse, if anybody remembers how Steven's Steakhouse was.
Steven's Steakhouse, they had Freddie Fender had a time when he was like the house entertainment. Yeah. And Freddie Fender is awesome, you know, I mean, I love his music. And actually, like, my Grandpa Al Soto, he was like kind of like his bodyguard, so that's kind of cool. And at the time, my father wouldn't call him Freddie Fender, he'd call him Freddie Quarter Pound. Okay, you can go to the next one. Oh, and you know, so I'm working at this camera store, it's in Pasadena, and they have a book there that's this photographer, Diane Arbus, and she shot in this square format. It was 6x6 centimeters, and I bought the same kind of camera, a Rolleiflex. And like a lot of her pictures, she went to the park, you know? And when you go to the park, you know, there's just people there, and it's easier to break the ice and take pictures, you know? At this time, there wasn't phones. I mean, you have a camera, people were like, wow, you have a camera? Like, wow. Like, people were really impressed with that. So, one of my favorite parks was Montebello Park. And so, I would frequent that place. I'd go play basketball there all the time after work in my early 20s. And, you know, this is a photo right here of the handball courts. And it's kind of sad that they took the handball courts out. A lot of parks, the handball courts have been removed, and some parks in Pico Rivera and Commerce where they had horseshoe pits, those have been taken out. And I don't know, they said that they promoted gambling and beer drinking, you know, but gambling and beer drinking is good because it brings people together. You know, beer is good, it brings people together. And right at this point, I'd like to give a shout out to my friend Shady from Michigan. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. You're coming home soon. Okay, next. And this is more of the carnival at Montebello Park. They had carnivals, right? So, I mean, Montebello Park had everything. They had the handball, they had the basketball. You go there, there'll be a carnival. And I don't know, I really like this photo because, like, you know, it was spontaneous, but this girl right in the middle just happened to look at my camera when I took the photo. And these spinning rides right here, they're too much for me. I can't go on. I can't go on with it, too much. I can't go around in circles like that.
And if anybody knows about Always Winning, just so you know, my neighborhood was just above Montebello. It was just up there, and it wasn't too far from the Maravilla area. But we were surrounded by mostly white community at the time, Monterey Park, Rosemead, and then Montebello used to be white for a long time. But when Montebello became Mexican, and we were just the next neighborhood right up there.
Okay. Oh, and this is Montebello Park too. There was a lot of skateboarders hanging out. They had stuff going on there. You could see they were doing stuff right there on the wall. And that colonnade, that was where the plunge was at. That's no longer there. So like, you know, things look different. So it's good to photograph while I did, because things look different, you know. And, you know, there's, and the East Side, you know, people don't know it all the time, but there was like, at one point, there was a huge Japanese community. And, you know, there's remnants of it, but, you know, from before when World War II happened in Boyle Heights, you know, there was like a real big population of Japanese, you know. And I grew up with a lot of Japanese Americans living in the East Side. And like two of the best like professional skateboarders, there were Japanese guys from the East Side named Bennett Harada and Daniel Shimizu. And you could go on to the next one.
Well, just really quickly, though, we were talking, me and him, about during the war how they caged up concentration camps, the Japanese, and left a lot of their homes. And some people we know took care of their homes. Some of them that we know that actually made sure they were taken care of until they got out. But so many of them left. There used to be in the 30s and 40s Japanese pachucos because they were connected with our culture. You know what I'm saying? So there was all this interaction between all the different peoples, and World War II kind of pushed them away, except for the few that were still there.
Actually, Rudy Acuna, in his book Occupied America, I mean, I took Chicano studies in like 1991, and you know, I just showed up to school to have lunch and like talk to girls. But like 2 years ago, I actually read the whole book, and he writes about like in the early times, the Japanese and the Mexicans were working in the same places, picking fruit or vegetables or whatever, and they used to try to separate them by race. But when one side would strike, the other people would strike with them. So there was a kind of a solidarity going on. This place right here, El Centro Grocery, it was actually Japanese owned, and that's on Mednick in Maravilla. And actually the guy that started the Maravilla handball courts was this Japanese man, you know, and he's kind of like the guy that started handball big in the East Side. And like there's a history to it. Like these people were really good to their neighbors, and they gave their neighbors credit, you know, when they couldn't afford to buy food, you know. And there's just like a solidarity with these people from this market in the whole neighborhood. There's like a whole history of it you could look at online. And this was a guy, Derek Tambora. He's a Japanese American guy, and I played Little League Baseball with him. And our last year, when we were 15, like your last year you could play baseball, we were the champs, right? And it was just a really cool time in my life. And he lived in East LA by Woods, off of Woods, just north of the 60 freeway. And when I'd go hang out with him, we'd go to like the Triangle Bowl, the bowling alley that was across the street from the Pep Boys on Atlantic. It's no longer there. It's like a McDonald's and a family planning and something else now. But it used to be a bowling alley, a place to go have fun. And, you know, I'd go hang out with him, and we'd go to a burrito spot, and he's like, hey, Greg, this place is a gambling ring. He's like, go look in that door. You can look in the door, and there's like men playing cards and people gambling. I'm like, wow, he wasn't joking around, you know? And he was just a real cool guy, Derek Tambora. And, you know, when he spoke English, he sounded like a guy from East LA, you know, and people, he was a Japanese guy, but everyone called him Chino. You know, he's not Chinese, he's a Japanese guy, but everyone Asian they call Chino. But I don't know, he didn't trip out on it. But, you know, he got a girl, like people just see this picture and they see a picture of a guy, you know, and this is what happened was this is the year anniversary from when he died. He got a girl pregnant that lived in the projects, and his dad got him a job where his dad was like, I remember he'd show up to the baseball games where kids wearing a suit and a tie, so he had a higher up job. And he got his son a job in the loading docks to support his new family, and unfortunately he died on the job. Accident, he was killed, and it was really messed up. But, he was a really good friend, and that's what this picture means. It's not just a picture of a guy on a mantle, and this is his dad Tom that got him the job. And I just always think of him, like he got his son this job that got him killed. It's really hard, And at the funeral, there was a mound of dirt, and he got a shovel, and he started putting in the dirt, and this is something I'll never forget.
Maybe just add too, because that area, all the way from Alameda, all the way down to the harbor, was the largest manufacturing center in the whole country. People didn't know this. They think Chicago, Detroit, all these places. LA had more manufacturing than any other part of the country. And it started going away in the 70s, but by 80s, and I know because I worked at Bethlehem Steel, I worked at that GM plant in Southgate, I worked in a lot of this industry. We couldn't get any more jobs. By 1984, 300 factories were gone. By the rest of the 80s, almost all of them were gone. And here, as you know, in the valley, there was the GM plant, Panorama City. There was Price Pfister in Pacoima. There's a lot of aerospace, all gone. So the industry left, and a lot of these barrios, a lot of people that had homes could buy homes because they were union jobs. At the time that I worked at Bethlehem Steel, I was making $25 an hour with all the benefits and pensions and everything. Can you imagine in the 80s?
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money. People could buy homes. People could buy 2 or 3 homes. When they went away, they pulled the economic rug from under us. All the barrios, all the neighborhoods, all the people that worked that industry.
That's what they said. Like I saw something on the Citadel, the mall in Commerce. That used to be a Uniroyal tire factory,
Huge.
and they said with the job there, you could afford the median house in that area if you worked there 5 years, right? But all the jobs, they said, well, we provided so many more jobs. They're all part-time jobs in a mall, and all the people that have those jobs, they can't even afford the median rent in the area.
Some are probably homeless too.
Yeah. Oh, and at one point I moved to El Sereno, and I lived up on top of this hill, and it was like a little valley. It was a street called Van Horn. There was a little park called Guardia Park. Actually, the neighborhood's called Guardia, and this was just crazy because you'd hear gunshots down there all the time. And one time, this young guy got shot 9 times, and they found him there the next morning, but nobody called the police or reported anything because of the gunshots, because it was just so common, And so that was kind of like my welcome to El Sereno. And then I started playing basketball. I liked playing basketball when I was a kid. When I was in my 20s, it came to a point where I started hurting my ankles and stuff, and I said, walking all right is better than playing basketball. But these were 2 kids, Samuel and Roman. And when I moved into the spot up the hill, it was with my friend Paul Moreno. He was like a legend in himself in Montebello, East LA. He was always in bands and had parties. But these kids, we had a pool, which was rare from up there. So these kids would come up to our pool like Huckleberry Finn and what was that other guy? Tom Sawyer. All these kids would be in the pool, and so my friend Paul, he's like the diplomat, and he just told all the kids, he said, hey, you kids, when you come over here, you got to be clean and be cool, but when one of us show up, you guys got to leave. So this one kid right here, Sammy, he got a hold of me, and I posted another photo, and he says, wow, I'm like really surprised you posted that, because that was like one of the coolest times of my life when I was a kid, to have that pool, But my friend Paul was a nice guy, I would have told these kids they're 86, but they're my friends' little brothers and stuff. And this is on Van Horn. There was these little kids all over the place. Again, it's like they're barefooted. They're like Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn. And there's just a time when when there used to be TVs that looked like furniture, you know? And like, I don't know, this TV was just there for like a month. It was there forever. And like I just had my camera and these two little girls went and got up there, I took the picture, you know? And there's just little things that are synonymous with East LA, like all the wrought iron. You always see so much wrought iron, you know, in East LA, and it's just something that's part of the landscape, you know. And then you have like this little house, and it's just, I don't know, just a picture I really like a lot. You know, it was a really cool time in El Sereno. Now this is El Sereno as well. That's the girls in the back, Michelle and Selena, they lived actually on Druid, which is to my back. That's a street called Richie Lou. So this is Richie Lou and Druid. And the guy on the right, that's Ernie. And he lived right there. And that was the guy on the motorcycle. That's Jesse. And yeah, Ernie, there was a place called Tony's Hofbräu in Valley. And we used to drink beers there and laugh about a lot of things. And Jesse, that panhead bike, the last I heard, it traded hands, and I think Brad Pitt owns it. No joke.
One thing you should know, that chopper style was created by Chicanos. People never give credit. The Hells Angels didn't have choppers. They had old Harleys. But the chopper style was done by Chicanos. They loved it, and they started putting it on TVs, and they started buying them, the chopper style, but it was all Chicano. And as you know, the Mongols came out of my neighborhood. South San Gabriel, Montebello came out of that area. They became so big that even, and for anybody's with the Hells Angels, I'm sorry, you can't see Hells Angels in Southern California because the Mongols pushed them out. Mainly because the Hells Angels were racist. They would not have anybody but white people. And the Mongols had everybody. Whites, blacks, Japanese, and Mexicans everywhere. So that's that story, because I knew guys that helped start the Mongols way back in the 60s.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
This was a mural. There was this artist when I lived in El Sereno. I started taking notice to him. His name was Peter Q. And see on the far right, you see Betty Boop. And there was always like Betty Boop by the Christmas tree with the little dog, and you had like Betty Boop in this one. But see, this was like in an alley, and it's kind of public service announcement. It said, "Please don't," is cocaine, cools, and then underneath it said, and it had the alcohol and stuff, but it got someone graffitied it. You see the bottle right there. So it says, you know, don't use drugs and drive, with the Grim Reaper, and Betty Boop's in it too. So Peter Q, for people that were in that area, like artist type people, everyone, they just remember this, and it's just something iconic to that area, the Peter Q murals. Oh, see, this is Jack on my first picture. He met this person, Michelle. She was in the same photo with the motorcycle, and they started going out. And one day we went to the San Antonio Winery on Mission Road, and we bought Lambrusco in like red cups. And we went to the park, and like we're drinking the Lambrusco, and Michelle started riding the swing. And if you look at the proof sheet, there's only one picture of this, and I just happened to time it. Bah! Like if you look at a swing, they pause, and then they come down. It's a pause, and I took the photo at that pause. And I don't know, this picture, I just think it's just really so good, you know. It's something. And you know, I wasn't doing takes of it. I wasn't doing it again and again on the proof sheet. There's one photo, and that's it. But again, you know, we're hanging out. We're at Lincoln Park. We're hanging out. So, you know, this project, a lot of it's hanging out. There's a lot of beer drinking, a lot of wine drinking, and like other things. And so there are some success stories when it comes to drinking wine and drinking beer. Okay, next. You see, and here we're hanging out again. The guy right there against the bed with the remote control, that's Monk. And that's Michelle right there. She was on the swing, and that's her right there. And that's Jack. He's getting tattooed by Peter. And, you know, we're having beers, you know. So we're hanging out, drinking beers, and I'm taking pictures. And actually, they're watching South Park. I think it was that one episode. Da na 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 na, Timmy. Da na 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 na, Timmy. You know which one I'm talking about? Is that South Park? So, it's really cool, really cool. Really, really cool. He's doing a tattoo on his back. I think he wrote something in a Chinese letter or something. I don't know what it says. Okay, next. Oh, see, this is Monk's house. His house was in the back garage spot, so that's probably where this is right here. We were in there, and this is a little later. He had a party. So, like, this is a party in, like, the mid-'90s sometime. The big record then was West Side Connection. You remember the gangsters make the world go down, go round, and bow down. All these songs, bow down. West Side. You guys remember this? So that was like a big album at the time. So you know they're probably listening to that right there. So like you know, I took pictures at parties. You know, so again we're drinking beer and hanging out. You know, so. Look at like the clotheslines are going down on people. People are trying to lift them up so they don't go in their face, right? Like the clotheslines are drooping. They should have put up new clotheslines or something. At one point to the right, there was people dancing on the roof. You know, like that song by Lionel Richie, "Dancing on the Ceiling." People were actually dancing on the roof. People were taking off their clothes. It was incredible. It was crazy. Okay, and then there's Good Times Gone Bad. I take up this picture, and it's pitch black. I can't even see back there. I'm focusing on like the outlines of people's heads. So I took this picture, right? And then all of a sudden, the DJ comes on the radio. The party's over. I guess there was like something said that there were people coming around. I guess they wanted to cause harm. So it's like we're leaving the party, you hear these gunshots, pa, 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 you know, like you see, look at the crowd of people and everyone's just hitting the ground. Like it looks like the wave at Dodger Stadium, but people going down, like just to not get shot or, you know. So everybody's taking off, it's mass hysteria, and I stuck around to like see what was going on, and by the time I went to the car with the people I showed up with, they were gone. So I just walked to Beverly Boulevard and to take the bus home. And I see in the distance, I seen a car pulled over with like, and I didn't know it, but what happened was this kid got shot twice, and actually I guess the police pulled him over. And they called an ambulance to take him to Beverly Hospital, and I guess he had passed away. So I guess, and I found that out. I developed the film, and I look at the picture, and I say, wow, that's that guy's last picture, and his head looks like a skull, you know. Oh, see, and this is at another party. It's light. It's a little lighter.
That's in my book, The Republic of East LA. Beautiful picture.
This is on the cover, the paperback of the Republic of East LA, and this was at a Halloween party. There was this girl. I guess she made up her little costume right there, and she's an angel, right? And Red Devil Pizza it was always a really good pizza place. I always liked it. It was in Monterey Park on Garfield. It's right up the street from a bar I always went to called the Venice Room, where you could cook your own steak. It's right there. It's a Monterey Park, which is Spanglish City, right? Monterey Park.
Monterey Park.
Right? Oh, and see, and this is just to keep in the same area. This is the 7-Eleven right down the alley to the right, and this is the first picture in the book. You know, I didn't edit the book. This guy Nick Hames did from Little Big Man Books, and he edited this photo, and you know, this girl was on the payphone, and she was talking to her boyfriend, and you know, she had to keep feeding the payphone, and so she asked me for change and everybody else for change, so she could keep, you know, paying to listen to the call. And you know, years later, I found out that she had been murdered by her boyfriend when she was pregnant. And like actually she was found in a suitcase at the guy's place or something. So I have to imagine, I wonder if she's on the phone with that guy, you know? It's just really bad, but her name is Noelle. Okay, back at the ranch, we're at another party. I was hanging out on the corner of Bonnie Beach and 6th Street in East LA. And we were in the corner. There was this kid there that lived there named Bam Bam. And we were there with his dad and some other people, Pecas, Mario, Beto. And we're barbecuing meat and we're drinking beer and taking shots of Presidente, which is a real disgusting liquor, but people just drink it. Again, we're hanging out, okay? Just hanging out. So someone asked, hey, are you going to go to the barbecue down the street? And then I went with Pecas, and we went over there. And right when I entered, there's these girls standing around. They weren't standing like this. They were just standing around. I had my camera. I'm like, hey, can I take a picture of you guys? And they immediately got in this pose. And I took one picture. And if you look at the proof sheet, there's just this one picture. You know, and this picture, it did really good things for me. It was in this photo derby. And it made some money. And at that time, it was just, I think this one, it was called George's Gallery. It was on Vermont, and it was like adjacent to the extra large store. And I think somehow the Beastie Boys and like those people were connected to this gallery. And they had this thing called the photo derby, where you paid an entrance fee, and there was only one winner. Like there was professionals, amateurs, and this is like in the mid '90s. And anyone could enter, and like the entrance fee was like 10 or 20 bucks. And so what happened was there was only one winner, and the winner split the 50% with the gallery. And when I showed up, I wasn't expecting anything, but this was the photo with the one blue ribbon on the, you know. So I said, hey, you know, people find this type of stuff interesting, you know. I just was hanging out, you know, having beers and stuff, you know. Oh, this is at the same party, and that's Becca's on the right. And Becca's was a really nice guy, and he passed away. He was in a car accident. Really cool guy. You know, and this is it was a barbecue. They had these barbecues in East LA, but there wasn't a lot of barbecuing going on. It was just mostly people like drinking beer and hanging out and listening to music. And I like that the girl, she has a compact right there, and she's looking to see what I'm doing, right? Does she look like she's looking at me? In that mirror, the compact? You see that?
Yeah.
Oh, and this goes back to my friend Paul Moreno. He'd have these parties in Commerce, the annual Christmas party, and everyone went. Some people would dress up, and some people would, you know, just show up, and it was his band would play, and it was just a yearly thing that everyone looked forward to. And sometimes the police wouldn't break it up. And then this song, the song that they're playing right now, I know there's a guy right there to the right. You see his hands? That's Juven Zapata. And he would sing the song Cumbia de Sol. Oye, timbalero, este es el Cumbia de Sol. So he's singing that song right there. And like these people start dancing. I don't know, it was a really fun time. The guy had great parties. Oh, and here's a picture on Gearhart and Beverly. You know, this is the Dollar Car Wash. Like, people are into, like, lowrider photography, and, like, a lot of it now is kind of set up. I mean, these guys, they don't have, like, show lowriders or anything. That's just their cars, you know, but I think this is really cool because it's spontaneous, you know. It's these guys hanging out, like, washing their cars together. And I think the spontaneity of photography of this project goes a long way. I mean, it's not rehearsed or set up or anything, you know. It's just, like some bonding going on. It's kind of like, what do you call it, a car wash club. Like Fight Club, but car wash club. Getting ready. Dollar car wash, but it's only dollar car wash for like 20 seconds, and you gotta put another dollar. Okay, and this is the back alleyway of Epstein's Muffler, you know. There's just more guys hanging out. Cars bring people together. Car culture brings people together. And car culture brings our people together forever. And you know, I kind of put this in a show in Europe, and I'm not sure if they understand it. You know what I mean? It's like these guys, you know, they're putting an engine into an old truck, probably like a 235 straight six or something. And this is at Epstein's Muffler Shop, and Joe Epstein, he's like famous with the especially with the bombs. He was He did bombs and lowriders, but his specialty was exhaust and exhaust pipes. And that's at his place on Montebello on Whittier Boulevard. It was kind of across the street from the park. And actually, this location blew up. Like something happened where the welding tanks blew up or something. But this shows, people together in a place, Joe Epstein's place, that's iconic.
And just to know, I had a 63 Impala that we owned, 4 of us homeboys, if you can imagine that. We took care of it, we fixed it. Nobody went to school to learn how to fix cars. That car got in an accident because the guy got drunk, ruined it, killed it. And then I had, later on, I had a 54 Chevy that I worked on. Never went to school for it, but we learned by just doing it. Take it all the way down to the engine block, take the whole engine off, put it back together, and that's how you learn how to do it.
Am I going too long? Are people falling asleep? Okay, so this is bringing people together. We're bringing people together. Sports brings people together. Sports brings our people together. Look at this. All these guys hanging out, watching the game. That's how he used to do it in the backyard. And it was funny, because like all the girls were in the house. Like, I don't know what they were. All the girls were in the house, all the guys were in the back. There's a lot of good people in that photo. It was a really good time. Actually, that was on New Year's Day, and UCLA was playing the Wisconsin Badgers, and it was tied at halftime. And UCLA ended up losing. But this guy, my friend Herman, he was a USC fan, and he stood in front of the TV just like rooting for the other team. I'm like, why did you show up for it? Why do you do that? Okay. See, more sports bring people together. We have football on the street. I don't see kids playing football on the street anymore. I think they do it on a video game or on the phone or something.
Yeah, nowhere. Where you go, there's no. We used to always be in the street. People, your parents would let you go. They weren't worried about you. Come back when it gets really dark. Come back, or for dinner, or whatever. But everybody was on the street, and people took care of you. People watched out for you. Your neighbors watched out for you. They don't do this anymore. I don't see it anymore.
We had a football thing in where I lived. It was called Champ of the Week, and hello. And we run different routes. Like everyone had to do the same route, and like somebody would be the quarterback. And when the first person caught all these passes, they're the champ of the week. And sometimes there was some guys that won all the time, and there was one guy that won the first time ever. Man, it's like he won the lottery. He was so happy. He's champ of the week. Champ of the week. Actually, my dad used to be the quarterback, and when I'd be sick, the kids would show up to the house and ask if my father could go be the quarterback for Champ of the Week. And he'd do it. That's when I lived by where you grew up, on Meta Linda Drive, and by the Primo's Liquor.
Right there in Lomas.
Yeah, it was awesome. I mean, there was so many kids all over the street. It was like...
And just so you know, those streets used to be dirt roads. There was an old migrant community. There was 100 migrant communities, Mexicans in San Gabriel Valley, that picked the orange groves and walnuts. But after World War II, they got torn down to build the white suburbs. But the barrios were still there. And they were dirt roads, the old little shacks and everything. And we played in them. And just a really funny story. The cops would always go in there. So they used to dig holes in the dirt roads, put these planks of wood, so the cops would come in there and get stuck in there. They couldn't even come to the neighborhood because we knew how to keep them out.
By the time I got there, it was paved.
Yeah.
But they had like cool stuff. The Primo's Liquor, the Pizza Kitchen, there was a Garduno's.
Garduno's was famous.
The Garduno's had cool pinball machines. They had the Rolling Stone pinball machine. They had really good chorizo and egg burritos. The Pizza Kitchen had the best sandwiches ever. It was great. And there would be kids outside on milk crates playing Uno. It was a really, really cool spot. Oh, and this is at the Garfield Roosevelt, the East LA Classic. This is when it was still being played at East LA College, and it was just, I mean, you can see it's just a total family affair, you know what I mean? And I remember this night I was taking all these pictures, and these two guys started giving me a hard time. They're like, "What are you taking pictures for?" Blah blah blah. Again, there was no phones then, and no one had a camera, right? And I told them, I said, "You know what? I'm doing a book called Eastsiders, but this is in the '90s." And they said, "Oh yeah, where's this book gonna be? Blah blah blah. You're not gonna make any book." And like I always heard this, you know. And then after I make the book, and there's some people that hit me up like I'm Stephen King making millions of dollars or something, and
that's one thing you should know. We don't make millions of dollars.
like I'm making, they think, oh yeah, well, I told you, I told everybody I was gonna make this book. I went on, and some people made fun of me about the book, you know. Even when I started working, like I started working. I got magazine work, and I go to the Venice Room, this bar where you could cook your own steaks, and I tell people, you know, I went to this person's house to take pictures, and then they all thought I was lying. They're all, oh really? Oh okay. And then one day I show up, and they go, Greg, where did you take pictures of today? I said, well, I didn't take pictures today, but the other day I went to Shaquille O'Neal's house and I took pictures of him for a magazine. Oh, really? And then like the drunk guy at the end of the bar, kid, I know you have these dreams of being a photographer, but I tried and it's hard. And I'd be like, I kind of love that they, like the whole thing that was going on. I didn't mind it. That was ridiculous.
One thing about Garfield, because yeah, just getting back to the photo, I used to go to those games all the time, but my first wife was from Garfield, and she was my high school sweetheart. So I would drive a truck out of City of Commerce on Triggs. They had these big warehouses, driving trucks. So I would pull up with this truck right in front of Garfield, and that was so impressive to all the people at Garfield. They said, who's this guy with this truck? And I would walk out, and she was so proud to see me. You know what I'm saying? Oh, here's my boyfriend, you know. I'm coming out of the truck, and she's coming out of the school, and it's like people were looking at us like we were like famous people or something, you know, just coming out of a stupid truck. And I married her 2 months after she got out of high school. 2 months right out of Garfield, we got married. My son, Ramito's here. That's our son, our oldest son, and Andrea were the 2 kids we had. Yeah, he's right there behind him. Now he's 47 years old, so it's been a long time.
Garfield High School Love Connection.
Yeah, there you go.
You know, and here's back at the park. And, you know, I was there to watch my friend's little brother play baseball, Little League baseball. I love sports. I'll go watch baseball. I watch Little League baseball. I've shot so many pictures at sporting events. Eventually I want to come out with something just called Stadium or something of my photos that I go to so many sporting events and do this type of stuff. But you know, these 2 kids, they're like brothers, right? And it just took me back to when I was a kid and I played Little League, and it was just, you know, it's just a really cool time to be a kid, to play Little League baseball at the park. You know, that's your only concern, to win the game after school. You know, all the kids, they kind of talk to each other that were on the other teams, and you know, but during the day, and then all the guys would show up and play the Little League ball game, you know, and that's what it kind of reminded me of. This is a family picture. To the left is uncle of the 2 men, and to the right is the mother of this young guy on the bottom. And actually, this is at the Resurrection Cemetery, and it was Christmas time. And I had went to my grandpa John's gravesite, and like the guy on the left, he said, "Don't you think it's kind of weird to be taking pictures at the cemetery?" I said, "You know, I thought about it. Sometimes I drive by the cemetery and you see people right there by the grave, you know, and you're just like, wow, that's something, you know. There's some emotion going on there, you know, and you see it from a distance." And I just saw this going on, and I said, I'm just gonna go take a photo of it. And what the man told me is what these 2 young guys, they were from rival neighborhoods. You know, this guy was from Barrio Lomas, and this guy was from San Gabriel. And, you know, they were...
So you know, Lomas and Sangra were the 2 main enemies there's still a war now, but, you know, we had relations. We knew each other. We used to play with each other, and then at a certain point, now we're shooting each other because one's one area, the other one's the other area. And so, yeah, so it's sad just to know.
But, you know, and you hear stories when you're, you know, in school of the Civil War, and it was like brother against brother or families against family in the Civil War, and that's kind of like what was just going on right there, you know. It is what it is. And one day I was taking pictures on 4th Street, and there was these guys were brothers, Rene and Jaime, and they said, hey, you know, we did this block over here in this alley, and I went and I took a photo of them with a 4x5 camera. It was, I don't know if you guys are familiar with a 4x5 camera, but it has a sheet film. So it's a holder, and you pull out the slide and take the picture and put back the slide. And by the time I developed and processed the film, I found out that these two guys, they were in a car by the Lorena 4th Street Bridge, and they got fired on, and one of them got shot and killed, and the other one that was driving was, I think he got paralyzed. He got shot and he tried taking off, but he was paralyzed. He lost control of the car, and I guess the impact of the car killed him. And I guess like their mother, they lost her 2 sons in the same day. Again, like when you look at the pictures in the book, you know, there's not these stories to go by the photos, but you know, there's some people that message me. They're all, you need to tell the stories of the photos. I'm like, well, that will be like a whole nother book, you know. And I'm not sure if I feel comfortable, you know, just writing down these people's lives and stuff like that, you know.
What year was that picture taken?
I think it was 1998. 1998. And these are 2 other brothers. They're from another neighborhood that's in the southeast, near Artesia. It's called Chivas. But you know, this is, you know, at the end of the day, everybody are family people, you know. And this is my friend Toki, and his brother Richard was baptizing his son. You know, that was Toki's son, and I don't know. I kind of like this photo showing people as family. You know, I mean the other one, you know, it's apparent what it is, but everybody has a family. Everybody are people. And these are 2 other brothers, Listo and Stomper, Beto, in the background. Right here in the background, there's this Impala. But you know, this is just where I happened to take the picture. It wasn't even like I don't know. It's just spontaneously done, really cool. I still keep in contact with these guys. Funny stories with my friend Beto. Oh, and that was in the neighborhood. It was called Little Valley, and my friend right there sitting down on the steps, he lived on 5th Street, and he was a good friend, so I'd always be over there taking photos. And this is like around Christmas time, and the people in the back, that's Dave and Barbie's son Shady, and they lived in that little house right there on 5th Street. And this is on 5th Street. This was the store right across the street, Ramona's. Ramona was an older lady, and she had these old beer coolers that were like from the 30s. It was really cool looking. And I have full pictures of this market, but it's not in the book. This is actually a select from the book. But like there's this old signage that says Carnation, fresh milk, and wine and beer. I mean, when you look at it from a distance, I mean, it just really ties the whole place together with like this nostalgic look. And on 5th Street at Mike's house, they had this bench, and there was this big tree, and it provided all this shade, and there was so many people who would come visit and sit on that bench, you know, and hang out. We spent a lot of time there. That's Yvette. Her name's Yvette, and that's her 2 boys. And like, you know, and 20 years later, I was by there, the tree got chopped down, and the little stool was just like two planks, and like termites destroyed it, you know what I mean? And it was just like nothing the way it was before, and I don't even think the whole neighborhood's the way it was before. Like at that time, it was like, it felt like a neighborhood, like everybody was out, like it was like a movie, like of the Bronx in New York, you know what you see, like something like that. And it was a lot of fun. And this is a couple streets over, and I was with my friend, and we went over there. He went to go sell a nickel bag of weed. Imagine a nickel bag of weed, $5 a weed. Like, what's that? Like, who buys $5 a weed? But that's, people used to buy $5 a weed. So I went over there. These kids bought $5 worth of weed. And actually, there's a book called Hearts and Hands, and this kid is kissing this girl.
Yeah, I think the book is up. One
And
of my
this
books.
kid's watching, and there's like a meme, like people draw a meme of like the little kid watching, and like the people kiss. They do funny things with it, but his book covers that. I think it's something else now, but that's the story of that photo, and it was a dead end, and it was a place where people used to hang out and smoke cigarettes and drink beer. You know, beer brings people together. Oh, I see, and that's like the top of the stairs with the view down there. This was, they used this for some of the promotion.
Yeah.
Jasper and Star.
In Hearts and Hands, so you know, it's the one book that really talks about why people join gangs, what happens, and it connects to LA and Chicago because I spent 15 years in Chicago. So it's a really important book. I think Ramiro says it's probably one of his favorites of my book. So yeah, and he's got this great picture. Not that one, but it's related to this couple.
Yeah. It's the photo from the photo. It was the same time. In the neighborhood, there was I got into these corner stores because like these corner stores continued to survive in these neighborhoods because people could just walk there and get stuff. I'm like sometimes people don't want to go to the market, and like the little neighborhoods, they keep these stores going. And like even some of them, like this one, they even put the neighborhood on the establishment, Barrio Little Valley. And at one point, I think the sheriff or someone told them that they can't do that anymore for some reason. And this was on Father's Day, actually. So you got the grandfather, the father, and the grandson, and the daughter. She's right there looking at the guy, Chino. He passed away. He's right there by the payphones. Payphones are like a relic now, right? You don't see those around too much anymore. But this market's been painted like this several times, and I think at this point it was like the best one. I like the cerveza fria right there because beer brings people together. Bonnie Beach and 6th next, and this is just another street over. This is Ramirez Market. And actually, the kid right here by the car in the middle with the shaved head, he lived upstairs. His name was Muzzles, and I just saw he stripped out. Like, wow, like that guy lives on top of that little market, right? And like right here, you can see like there's like this something. There's like the phone booth. It's like it has like a impact from a bullet, So like I guess like the enemy has shot at them right there, but it didn't deter them. They're still hanging out. And like that car, this is a spontaneous picture. This car wasn't brought there for the photo shoot. This is somebody's car, and if you go by there now, it looks nothing, the building looks nothing like it. They took out all the wooden siding, they took off the balcony, and it's just a big stucco building. It looks nothing like it anymore. It's kind of sad, but I guess that's what's better and more economical to preserve the building, I guess, but it looks nothing like that anymore. Oh, and this is back on 5th Street. These people, all these kids, and this is Mary, that's Crystal and Amber's mother, and the guy in the back, that's Felix. He was like a mentally challenged guy, super cool. what was going on is his house was for sale, and they wrote like the people painted on it, and like people were hanging out drinking beers and like doing their thing, because beer brings people together. And the real estate agent, when I took these pictures, the real estate agent showed up, and they just look over, and these people would start waving and like whatever. And the real estate agent would just keep driving down, and I'm like, wow, that kind of sucks for him, but it's kind of funny, right? But I guess like that was like their own way of like being against gentrification. See, these are anti-gentrifiers. They, you know, but eventually the sheriff started arresting people for loitering who were there. And that's on 5th Street. That's actually my car, my Cadillac. I drove this car here today. It's parked right there. The same car, and that's Enorio. Enorio's a young guy. You'd see him walking his dog, and Enorio took his own life, and it was very sad. Rest in peace to Enorio. And that's my car again that I brought here. And this is after work. We're at the dead end. That's actually the 60 freeway and the Downey Road off-ramp up there. And that was the dead end. That's Record Street. And this guy at the end with this mustache, Manuel, he lived right there. And people would hang out there after work and like have a beer and a smoke. And that's my friend Beto right there. And he was a real funny guy. Like one time in this car, the car that I brought here today, I was driving west on Whittier Boulevard, and when you cross the 710, it goes from 45 miles an hour to 25. It's like total speed trap. So when you get to the cemetery, there's like a little driveway, and there was a highway patrol there that pulled me over into the Calvary Cemetery. So I'm pulled over with a couple friends, and he shows up, and he has a Toyota Corona, one of those little old Toyota cars, and there's a roundabout, and he's going around in circles, and I'm like, oh my God. And the highway patrol, he has my license, and he's all, hey, do you know that guy? I'm like, no. And then right away he starts going, hey, Greg! Hey, Greg! And the cop has my license, Gregory. And then the cop's like, what are you doing? He goes, I'm from the neighborhood watch. But he was just, that's what he is. He's a funny guy. He's a comedian. Right?
And just so you know, we had family just on the other side of the Loyo, because the Loyo starts on Sano, right on the other side of this area, right, Ramiro? We had a home as a family right there, and it was kind of a really run-down area. I don't know if it's still there. It was so bad that they had to put on the freeway on the 60, they put a wall so people wouldn't see all the shacks on the other side of it.
Oh, this is on 5th Street. You know, sometimes the sheriffs would come by and just go by, and sometimes they'd get out and start searching everybody. So it was kind of like a gang sweep type thing. And one time I'm taking pictures, and they're like, "What are you doing?" And one guy, the cop took my camera and just took my film out of the camera and ruined it. So I think at this point I just started kind of walking away, and I took this photo. And that's why it's kind of blurry like that, but I don't know, it's just kind of like the light on the side, and it just kind of, it's something, it's shot on film, and it's something I don't think it'll look the same in digital. Digital now, you can shoot at night and it looks amazing, but film was just a little trickier, especially when you're trying to get out of there. Oh, cronies. I just put this picture. I had this picture part of the edit, and the editor put it in. But this place, I just drive by there. I just always smile, you know. I mean, I love the sign with the dog, and it's an old time. They have chili dogs. That's what they're mostly known for. And they have RC Cola with the crushed ice. I like the RC Cola. I don't know if they still have the RC Cola. I think they did away with it and they brought it back. But the Royal Crown Cola, I really liked it. But one of the last times I was there, I went on National Hot Dog Day, and I walk up, and there's still food cooking, and the guy goes, "We're closed." And I said, "But it's National Hot Dog Day." And he said, "I know, huh?" And I said, "Are you guys really closed?" He goes, "Cha." Damn, like, it's not like, I was sad. I was walking away. There's two old guys walking up, and I said, "They're closed." and they told me, but it's National Hot Dog Day. And I said, I know, huh? I said, that's not being in the vocabulary. I know, huh? I-N-O-H-A. I know, huh? So there's a funny story about cronies, like in recent times. Oh, you know, and there goes, we go back to the little corner stores, the little markets, you know. And I really got into photographing these. And this one's in Montebello. This is in South Montebello. There's actually one on Poplar in North Montebello called Balcomb's North Side Market, and there's Balcomb's South Side Market. And you go in there and it kind of just says like dairy and produce. It's kind of like the Brady Bunch or something. Jocelyn's Market. This is, I go there sometimes like when I'm hungry for lunch. Like I'll go there and I'll get a can of menudito and a cilantro and an onion and corn tortillas, and I'll have a lunch. And I don't know, they have those ice creams there, those little sundae cups with the wooden spoon that are like strawberry or chocolate. I like those a lot. You get the medio litro Coca-Colas there. Really good. And one time, actually, we were talking about the gully, and you were talking about a guy named Midget that lived by the gully. Like, it had to be in the 70s.
Yeah, because I used to live in the gully, which is where White Fence started.
Well, see, that's where it says White Zone. That's what that is.
Yeah, so White Fence right there. They used to call it the gully. It was one of the worst streets. And you know how the 4th Street Bridge and all those movies, they make it on the 4th Street Bridge, you always see the graffiti and all those movies, like from Broadway Nights, Boulevard Nights, all the way to Blood In, Blood Out, all of them were in there. The gully goes right through there, and that's where I used to live.
So he told me about this guy Midget.
Because I knew some of the white guys.
And then one time, so right where that blue house is on the sidewalk, you know, it says Midget, you know, and with the year, and I'm like, wow, that's the guy.
That must be him.
That's the guy that Luis was just talking about, you know. So, you know, you got a lot of scribes and stuff in the sidewalk, and they're there forever, you know, unless someone replaces the cement. I mean, they last forever. Like painting, people just paint over the paint, you know. But the stuff in the sidewalk, it was just kind of a trip that he had just talked about that, and then I saw that on the sidewalk. Oh man, this place. See, my grandpa Al lived down that way on Fresno by the cemetery, and I'd be at my grandpa Al's house, and he'd tell me, like he'd work on cars. Like when he retired, he became the neighborhood mechanic. My father and my dad, it was like that show Chico and the Man. It was like, what was that guy, Jack Albertson Freddie Prinze? Right. Yeah, that was my dad. I think the old guy, Jack Albertson. I think he's the grandfather in the original Willy Wonka. You know, you ever see the show Chico and the Man? They have the Gypsy Rose lowrider in the beginning. I don't know. But my grandfather would see me bored. He's like, hey, you want a soda pop? He'd tell me, you want a soda pop? And like we'd walk to the store and he'd buy me a soda pop. Like, you know, like when you're a kid, you buy an Orange Crush and they were like that big. All the sodas seemed like that big, right? And like you go turn them in for a dime or 10 cents. Yeah. My grandfather, he'd say soda pop. Like one time, it was raining and I just washed my car. I had a clean car, and he's like, hey, get over here. I said, I can't. He's like, why not? I said, well, I just washed the car and I put it in the garage. He's like, well, what's wrong with your car? Is it made out of sugar? Is it made out of sugar? I'm like, no, I don't want it to get wet. He's like, well, take the street car. I'm like, what are you talking about? It's raining. He's like, what are you, made out of sugar? I'm like, what do you mean the street car? The bus. He's like, you know what I'm talking about, damn it. And I'm like, well, I'll get over there. I gotta go to the gym first. He's like, what gym do you go to? Do you go to the boxing gym or do you go with the women? Because he used to go to a Main Street gym when he was a kid. He was a boxer guy. He was really into fight. He couldn't stand sports. The only sport he liked was fighting. He was the opposite of my other grandfather. My grandpa John, my mom's dad, he was into the Lakers, the Dodgers, the Rams. Well, this is Frank's Liquor. It's another corner store, you know. When I was a kid, there was a lot of stuff that happened at this place. There was a real good burrito taco truck in there. And I don't know, there's a lot of good times at this place and some tragic things that happened there. Oh, and at one point, like I was talking about, I'd be driving around so much, you know, I get pulled over all the time. I get pulled over and I'd get a ticket all the time, and I'd have to fight all the tickets, and you're just fighting all these tickets, and eventually you get so many points on your record, you get your license taken away. But I wasn't even doing anything. I was just getting pulled over. They give me a ticket for this, a ticket for that. But you keep fighting it, and eventually, you know, I got so I'm on the bus, and I would have I would have a car, but I would drive just when I had to. I wouldn't drive because I didn't want to, you know, get in trouble with no license or anything for no reason. But so I'm on the bus. But see, here's a silver lining. I took this great photo on the bus. And here's the Denny's. This is the Denny's on Wilcox and Via Campo. And when I was a kid, we'd go to this Denny's, and it was cool. We'd go there and act cool and smoke cigarettes and drink Coca-Cola. It was like when you could still smoke in restaurants. That's how old I am. You know, it says USA Today, and they're eating a club sandwich. You know, it's very American, you know. At one point, you know, like I love this photographer named Robert Frank, and he did a book called The Americans, you know. And at one point, I was just messing around with my publisher. I said, you know, I think I want to name my book like Robert Frank, The Americans. I want to make mine The Mexican Americans. And I was just joking around with him. But look at how American. That's American. This is, you know, it's a club sandwich, Coca-Cola, USA Today. Oh, and this is back in Pico Rivera. So my friend Paul Moreno, who was my first roommate, he had a place in Pico Rivera on Whittier and D-Land. It was called Sanford's Junk Store. And he would go around like on remember they used to have bulk trash day?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, and people would throw away really incredible, nice things. And he'd go get all that, and he started like an antique store on someone's junk. So, and then he made like rehearsal studios, so there'll be bands playing. He'd have his junk store, and the back they had like we watched movies. It was like really fun. And I'd step out and I go to this place, El Atacor, number 3, and I'd buy a burrito. And one night, this is on a Sunday, so this is cruise night, and these girls are waiting for the cruise night to start, so they have their camcorder right there. They must have some really good footage if they still have it. Oh, and this is like a product of the cruising. This is on, these are people probably coming back from the cruise or going back to the cruise. They're coming back or they're going to the cruise. The epicenter was Rosemead and Whittier Boulevard at that time in the 90s. And like it was really messed up because like if you're driving, like you're just gonna get pulled over. And they would just pull everyone over and give them a ticket or something just to try to deter the cruising. So I saw this going on. I'm like, wow, that's like a really cool picture. And I stopped the car and I got out. And this guy over here, he has his gun drawn. And like these people right here on the speaker, he's saying, "You are in the line of fire." So that's not even a Shell gas station anymore. Actually, that's a Pollo Loco. So the cops probably go through the drive-thru now and give them chicken. And this is my friend Paul Moreno's shop was on Whittier and D-Land, and this is in a neighborhood called Jardín. And they were having this, on the way back, they were having this car wash for a kid named Peter, who had been killed. So I'm photographing the car wash, and it was a very community, it was a tight-knit community neighborhood. And at one point they were telling me that there was a mural that they were going to paint over like the very next day. And the neighborhood's called Jardín. And I don't know, I just got this really good portrait, you know. I guess this man, his name's up there, Jimenez, he must have been the artist. And you see the neighborhood, and there's like, there's the serpent, you know, from the flag, but you have like this vine, you know, like the garden, the Jardín, like tying everyone together. And it was a really cool mural. I mean, part of it, you know, it got painted, they had to keep painting over it because people would paint, but it would have been really cool for them to kind of restore that mural, you know. But now you go by there, it's like a faux brick wall. But I was happy that I was able to get that. And this is the gully that we were talking about. You know, at the end of that street, there's like in the movie Colors. That's where what's his name? Pac-Man and Hodges. They go by and they say, "Have you seen any gang members?" And then their guys are right there at the end.
Yeah, that's the 4th Street Bridge.
The Lorena Fourth Bridge, or the Fourth Lorena Bridge.
Yeah, Lorena's that street on top.
Yeah, it was built in the, I think in the early 20s. There's a plaque on this side at the very end, and it has everybody involved. So I guess at one time you used to have to, 4th Street used to go all the ways down and up, and then they built this bridge. And now it looks different. There's like a big screen right here for, I don't know, people to deter people from throwing stuff over or jumping or something. I don't know. There's like a big barrier right there. It looks different. And this is actually from the view from on top. And this is a house. You know, I mean, it shows the neighborhood. I kind of like that. And this is like a typical like little wood slatted house in that area. And again, this house looks nothing like that anymore. It's stuccoed over and it looks completely different. But there was a Hal Ashby movie called Bound for Glory where in the movie David Carradine plays Woody Guthrie, who was like a labor leader, folk singer. He was like a big deal in the United States. And actually in the movie, that's his house. And they show like the opening scene, they show the bridge with like these old cars. And it's just, if you guys ever get a chance, watch that and you'll see that. And that's another shot from on top of the bridge, and that's actually Lorena. Yeah. And there used to be a tire shop there, and now it's just like a big yellow 2-story house. And actually, I think they have like somebody there is doing like psychic readings. So it's like a big yellow house with psychic readings. So it's no longer a tire shop. It's a residential, and they do psychic readings. See, so that looks different. And this, I was taking pictures of like these old houses around Boyle Heights. Like you have like these old Victorian houses. It looks like something from like a Frank Capra movie, It's like, wow, that's old, And like people don't know it, but this house is gone now because to the back of me, it's a street that tees right into it. It's called Echandia. And like some guy, he got shot and he lost control of his car and the car flew into this house. And I heard about it, I drove by and there was a car like in the house. Like it landed like in the house and they had to like red tag the house and they just demolished that house. So this picture now doesn't even exist. You can't even take this photo anymore because that house is just an empty lot now. Yeah, the driver and the passenger, the girl, they both passed away in that one. And this was something that brought the community together. It was there was this sergeant, Andrew Ramirez. He was on a peacekeeping mission in Kosovo, in Yugoslavia. And he was taken by Serbian forces. He was a POW. And like all over, like people put yellow ribbons. And at the high school he went to, they put his like name really big on the sign and like a yellow ribbon. And it was kind of cool. There was this solidarity for this soldier in East LA. Like nobody knew what was gonna happen to him, And then I think Jesse Jackson went and was part of the deal that for getting these soldiers back. And there's the general hospital. They put up their staff sergeant Andrew Ramirez. And I look at the general hospital. It's a very ominous looking building. It's just people tell me like, Nancy, you told me you were born there, right? I was born at White Memorial, so it's another hospital in Boyle Heights. But for the most part, everything that was happening around General Hospital was always something tragic.
It was bad, and I remember Ramiro, my son, he busted all his teeth. I don't want to tell the story, but he fell from a bunk bed right there in City Terrace and the barrio there. Busted all his teeth. I took him there. It took us 2 or 3 days, right, Mijo? We couldn't even. They wouldn't see you because it was all for the indigent people. General hospitals, when you go in, when you couldn't go nowhere else, and you would be sitting there, people would be shot, waiting to be seen, you know, all kinds of things. It was quite horrific. And when I was using heroin at the time, years ago, before that, it's the only place where you can get Hep C test. You know what I'm saying? Because you couldn't go to anywhere else, and that's why we would go. So it was really the hospital for the poor people, and it had a lot of people born there. My younger sister was born there. So yeah.
And also in the shot, you have the county jail bus. You know, it transports people to court and back to the county jail. That's that bus right there. And just in the one shot, there's like that's one bus I never wanted to be on, and one hospital I never wanted to be at. And right there, you see the writing on the wall. It says State Street Locos. And later on, I became acquainted with the guy that used to take care of that mural.
So
it's called a block.
Yeah, the men's county jail is, as you know, not too far from Twin. Now they have Twin Towers. Twin Towers is a different thing. The men's county jail is still there. I unfortunately was there lots of times. I've been on that bus lots of times. It's not a good place to be in. And I'll tell you one story. When I got busted during the Chicano moratorium, we were all there handcuffed, and because it was the moratorium, the police were pissed off. So we were there. We couldn't do nothing, and they maced us. You know, there's mace and then there's pepper spray, 2 different things. But I've been pepper sprayed too, so I get both of them. They just maced us while we were sitting there, and we couldn't move or nothing. We were just suffering, and that's what they would do. But I've been on that sheriff's county jail bus for many times.
Oh, talking about ominous places. See, these are the Pico Aliso, the Aliso Village projects. They would, and you know, when you were there, like the way they look like this, right, man, like this. These are the projects. You know, it says no trespassing. You know.
Well, the one thing they would say about the projects, that's Primera Flats, but one of the things about those projects, the Aliso Village and the Pico Gardens, they were called ungovernable. But one thing that people don't know, a lot of movement stuff came out of there. There was a lot of organization. People were there organizing. I was there organizing in both projects, Pico Gardens in particular. We were organizing the youth. We had big, giant anti-police protests there. They really hated these projects. Not because they were just violent, they were violent, but they were the epicenter of a lot of movement. I don't know if you guys know that. And as you know, Aliso Village, they got rid of it. It's one of the first positive projects they got rid of because, I think, because of that history of constantly fighting back and organizing.
And then they tore down the Aliso Village, the Pico Aliso Housing Authority, and they built these townhomes. And I have a friend that actually bought one. And back then it was, I think it was around 99.
Yeah, and they told me that they wanted to.
2000?
It was the beginnings of gentrification in Boyle Heights because they wanted to make them high-end, but also more Asian. They purposely wanted to make them, even though there's Mexicans there, the single largest group was Korean. They brought in other people because they wanted to get rid of the raza. You know what I'm saying? Make it more other people and make it so that they were high-end. So it was like a gated community after that. They tore down Aliso Village and created a gated community there right in the middle of Boyle Heights.
I actually had a friend that bought one, and I verified all this, but when he bought it, it was $400,000. He bought their 4-bedroom townhouses. And he told me now they are selling for $900,000. Mm-hmm. 900. These would be projects. Now these are townhouses selling for $900,000. And he told me some people are renting them, these 4-bedroom townhouses, $4,000. It's just it's amazing. And he did tell me he told me it's mostly Asian now, and everybody looks like him like he's crazy. And this was a closing shot. It's a landscape, and this is Mission Road. And Mission Road, you know, my grandfather always talked about it. My grandpa Al, he was into like he was a neighborhood mechanic, so he was always over there getting parts for cars because it was where all the wrecking yards were. and so that's why you see that T&J Foreign Auto Salvage. It was all salvage yards. You could go there to get like your windshields, and you could find a lot of different car parts all in that area. But in the distance, you see the Twin Towers jail, and in the far distance, you see Dodger Stadium, and it's just.
One thing you should know, the Twin Towers is the largest mental health facility in the world. It's a county jail, and I've been in there. It's horrible. People should understand how bad it is. They have suicide rows where the people are forced to wear suicide suits, and the only reason they call them suicide suits is it says, well, they shouldn't be embarrassed. That's why we put them, so they don't commit suicide. They're embarrassed to do that. So that's not a mental health therapy, dude. And they have cages. I've been in there. I've watched this. They have cages where they keep people there all day long. Several cages in a row with one TV. All day long, they're stuck there. It's a horrific place, by the way. And it's got the largest number of mentally ill people in the whole world. And it's still part of the county jail system.
It's a real bad hotel.
Yeah.
That was the last one.
But see, yeah, that's the closing one. To see, you know, in the background, that's Dodger Stadium, and like for the most part, like the biggest fan base are, you know, probably Chicanos, you know, and you know there's a lot of the inmates right there just to the left, you know, are the same, you know, group.
And you guys know about the Dodger Stadium, you know, Chavez Ravine, you know, all that stuff. And for the longest time, Mexicans would not show up to Dodger Stadium. I know, because I was one of those Mexicans. Fernando Venezuela changed all that. When Fernando got in, it changed all that. Now you go there now, none but Mexicans. I mean, everybody else. But
They even make Dodger caps with tacos on them. Have you seen this? There's tacos with palm trees.
Yeah, and they got Doyers. Yeah, so it's really now more Mexican. But it used to be you wouldn't show up because Salvage Ravine was a terrible situation. They replicated it all over, getting rid of neighborhoods, but that one was a particular important battle that people should know. There's a book called Stealing Home. I recommend it. I think they have it here. They might, if not, we should order it. It's called Stealing Home. I forget the writer, but it's one of the best books about what happened to Chavez Ravine. Anybody should get.
There's a photographer named Don Normark who documented the whole neighborhood when it was still a neighborhood. It's a really cool book. I actually, when I was in my early 20s, I went to a photo show in Echo Park at a gallery called Phototeca that showed the work, and that's how I became familiar with the work and actually the history of Dodger Stadium. I didn't really know anything about the history of Dodger Stadium and how people were displaced. But I mean, I'm sure a lot of people don't know it. I'm sure the Dodgers don't want people to know it. Yeah. But it is what it is.
And my mentor that helped me in poetry, but also in going into the prisons, Manasar Gamboa, he was from Bishop, one of the neighborhoods. It was Bishop, Palo Verde, and La Loma. Those are the three neighborhoods that made up the so-called Chavez Ravine. I think we should open it up for questions.
Any questions?
This is a lot, but we do want to know if people have any questions or comments or anything. Yeah.
Did you guys photograph your university moments?
University, you said?
Moments or friends of yours that went or studied?
People that went to study?
Yeah, man.
Well, I brought up my friend Bernard. He's a judge up in Washington now. I'm sure I photographed Michelle, my friend Michelle, the one on the swing. She graduated from college and has a master's.
These are people from what heights, right?
There's Al Sereno. Yeah, there's a lot of people from the Eastside that go to college.
But that's a recent thing. I mean, I say recent within 20, 30 years because I'm that generation of the first Chicanos to enter the universities. Nobody had gone. They built Seaside. It wasn't called Seaside at the time by Mexicans. My wife's father put the brick by brick, helped build that place. They couldn't go in that school. She was one of the first classes. This is late 60s of Chicanos that got in, and you know they started Chicano Studies, one of the largest in the whole country, came out of there. So a lot of it was our own people struggling to get into these institutions that our people, that our gente helped build. We helped build a lot of these places that we couldn't get into.
Hey, the Garfield Roosevelt picture, that was at ELAC, East LA College, Atlantic Square University, ASU. Yeah, dude. East LA College. You got Rio Hondo,
Yeah.
Pasadena City College, LA City College.
We got Mission up here.
UCLA,
We
USC.
got Mission
People go to
Community
these schools.
Yeah, they're everywhere now, which is good. Yeah.
I mean, it's all Eastsiders, so there's not a lot of. I mean, the only college I think in the East Side is really East LA College.
And Cal State LA is up
Cal
there.
State LA.
And I was both East LA College and went to Cal State LA. I didn't graduate from any of them, unfortunately. I don't got no degrees, but I remember getting in there. So we had a hand over here.
Oh yes. So how did you how were you able to take picture of like the people there? Like, did anyone trip on you or? Like,
Oh yeah, people trip on you all the time. You know, you have to have like I don't know. A lot of the times people knew me. I was hanging out. You're hanging out, and then like I'm not immediately taking out a camera, and but like people see me there for a while. But sometimes there's a spontaneous time where you want to take pictures. Some people don't want their picture taken, and that's that. So you gotta learn how to work with, learn how to be rejected. Not everybody wants to have their picture taken, especially back. I think now people are different. Like people take selfies and people photograph themselves a lot. And everyone has a phone with a camera. But like then again, back then you have a camera, people are like, wow, you have a camera? It was something special. Not a lot of people had cameras, and now everyone has a camera. It's a camera world.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I'm trying to articulate like what I want to say, because I don't know if it's like a comment or a question, but I'm a West Side baby, probably the same age, about 51, 52.
Right, I'm 50 years
I grew
old.
up like right there, like just on the West Side, so it looked similar, but a little different. And I'm just trying to think. I'm an educator, and I just try to think like, I heard you say like a lesson right now. Like it was a different time. I think it wasn't welcome. It wasn't the norm. You didn't see like, we didn't pose for pictures before. You just with your hands down, you don't smile.
Yeah.
You just look like, and I'm just trying to think like, what kind of messaging, because I think there's a lot of like, everything's in the narrative, and there's like each of those could be like a chapter, but there's a lot of good messaging that I just hear from you reflecting that we could pass on to the kids.
Mm-hmm.
In some ways, like how do we make it accessible? And I'm talking like impressionable, middle school, 11, 12-year-olds. And there's no, it's not asking like a question, but I just want to throw it out there because that's my daily. I do prevention intervention with the kids.
One thing we've had photography classes here.
Yeah.
And Eric Iniegas, right, he was doing them. And I think one of the things about giving people a camera, it changes people's lives. And then when they can go to their neighborhoods and say, just take pictures of everything. Don't just focus on anything. You don't know where good picture's going to come from. Take a picture of family, animals, whatever, and then they get to see the magic of what pictures can do if they're constantly out there. It's a very beautiful tool to use. At least I know from Dia Chuchas, and I know that he's done that.
And I don't want to just take too much airtime, but I think that's what I experienced with just the slideshow.
Mm-hmm.
And if kids can access that and just that creativity, we don't stint it, and that's promoted.
Yeah.
No, so I was saying it's just but everything stemmed from hanging out. Okay, I was hanging out, and a lot of the pictures are spontaneous. Like you said, like nowadays people do photo shoots that are productions. However you want to do it. People make good photos if it's a production, but I think this book, what makes it cool is there's spontaneity to it, and
one thing I want to say about Gregory, what makes him a little different, is that he made a living off this. He did photographs for magazines. He covered a lot of things. In other words, people can make a living. So taking pictures is one thing, but then there's an art to it. And you get good to that art, and then eventually people want to see your work. They want to pay him. And this is how it gets a book like this.
Oh, some of the pictures. That's how I got into the LA Weekly. I went with my Eastsider pictures to the LA Weekly, and luckily the editor there, she started running my Eastsider pictures as they had a thing called The Last Picture. And this was in the LA Weekly, was like an actual thing. Now it's just like 3 pages, but it used to be a big thing with like a lot of writers and a lot of editors, and it was a really good thing. And you know, it got me noticed. And then at the same time, I started taking pictures at like hip hop events, underground hip hop, and people like there wasn't a lot of people with cameras, and they see me there with a camera, and like people would hire me to do things, you know. Yeah.
So you talk about photographing as hangout culture. So when you capture your subjects, they look very normal and comfortable. When you started doing like magazine work, where you had to interact with people you never met before, was it difficult to transition into photography or photographing people you didn't know in like settings that weren't familiar to you, like in Eastsiders?
Yeah, you know, sometimes it's awkward, you know. It's like I photograph people who you know, who are famous, you know, like Mike Tyson or whatever, Kobe Bryant, or, but you know, my thing was the main thing at hand is I had to get good photos for the job, you know, so I just tried to work with the situation, and you know, some people are really nice and easy to work with, and you run into some people who are not very nice, just like life, you know, like when like how Luis says, some people just think I take pictures of East LA all the time, but I've had a career, you know, and if you look up my work, you see I had a career, and you know, sometimes you run into some people who, you know, they kind of, I don't know, they're messing around or being comedians or just want to hate, but they say, you know, they tell me, oh, well, all I got to do is take pictures of cholos, and I'm a photographer, and I think about it, and I say, yeah, that's all you got to do. Go buy a camera and take pictures of cholos, and you're a photographer. He's all, I have a family from this neighborhood. I'm like, yeah, go take pictures of all of them. I'm sure you'll be famous. You'll do something big. But
there's a few now that are they're doing at the level of work that Gregory is, you know, George Rodriguez, Esteban Orio. There's a few of them. There's not too many of them. And so Gregory is one of the people that are breaking through, which is important, breaking through in that world. But he has to be able to take pictures of a lot of things, work for a lot of magazines, whatever you got to do to get in there. But you break through, and then he can do the work that he wants to present, the work that's what matters to him.
yeah, that's something. You know, he brought my name up with some really great photographers. That's really great. It's really great.
He's up there.
You know, sometimes I just feel like some guy like hanging out in my, or you know, he's my neighbor. You know, so I think all my neighbors, they don't even know what I do. They think I think I'm just some crazy guy that parties all the time or something.
Now you had your hand up.
No, you mean so much to us, for real. Like, that's why we're all here. And for me, like, I just really appreciate the level of quality you bring, like, to the culture, especially. And, like, learning photo and stuff, I learned, like, oh, that's the equipment. Yeah, so how old were you when you got your first camera? And what's your favorite camera?
I got my first camera. I got my first camera when I was about 16, and I was taking classes at the school. The school had a photography program, and it was really good. And the teacher was really good. And
What school did you go to?
Sure High School.
Yeah, right there in Montebello.
Sure High School. It was considered like the rich kid Eastside school or something. Where people, I don't know, but I don't care anything. But I love that school, and the photo program was incredible. And you know, right away I took pictures of. I would take the 40 bus, the Montebello bus. I go to downtown and I take pictures of the homeless. You know, I had this thing with the homeless because I was afraid of it. Like when I was a kid, my dad used to drive me by there and like, you know, tell me like that's what happens like when you don't work and you want to be a bum. So you know, I had to go I went and took pictures of that and spent time with it. And then at the time, you know, I go by the retirement homes, the old folks' homes, and I'd see these people my heart would sink, you know, and I'd go talk to them. I took pictures of the old people in the old folks' homes. So, and then like I'm entering my picture, and I was taking pictures of like stuff on the street, you know, and I was entering my pictures at that time at like the state fair and the county fair. They're winning like best in show and stuff. did that for a couple years in high school. But it was so good that high schools, they had these photography programs. They had auto shop, they had wood shop, metal shop. They had all these things where kids could like trigger a talent. And it's so sad that a lot of these programs are gone because a lot of kids, they can't trigger these talents anymore. I don't know if maybe if I didn't take these classes, I wouldn't have triggered that, you know? I mean, I was into, the reason why I like photography, to be honest, was I had another friend, a school friend, Justin De Leon. His father, John De Leon, was a photographer, and he photographed like blues musicians and rock stars and stuff. And he had pictures of like the Rolling Stones, Mick Jagger, and he was just like this rock and roll guy. And I really thought that was cool. And like when I'd go to Justin's house, like David Hidalgo from the Los Lobos would be there, and I'm like, wow, that's the dude from Los Lobos. And I just it just really inspired me. And my friend Justin was a photographer too, and I think because him, I started taking that photo class. And after high school, I mean, when I graduated, I had this big financial aid package to go to Art Center, and I didn't take it. I didn't go to Art Center. I had like a big financial aid package, and I remember the teacher was really upset with me that I didn't go to Art Center. But I don't know. I just started working and doing other things and hanging out with my friends. And I know of people that did go to that school, and it's a really good school, but it seemed to me like a lot of people that went there, like all their work started looking the same, you know what I mean? And like later on when I think I felt the need to be creative somehow because I wasn't taking pictures, I wasn't doing anything. And so I started taking cinema classes at Los Angeles City College. And in the classes, you take pictures as for the scenes, because you can't, back then it was film, it wasn't digital. So you couldn't shoot a whole movie, so you had to do like these little frames, like what your shots would look like. And so based on that, everyone would say, wow, your photography is really good, and this and that. And at that time, I started shooting the Eastsiders, and I started going to these like different concerts, like mostly hip hop shows where people weren't really photographing, and just everything just came together, and I eventually had a career, and it came fast at one point. It came really easy, and I took it for granted, and I was just very fortunate in the beginning, like how it came like that.
I think.
But I did work at it.
Yeah,
I did work it.
I think that's a good point. Whatever you do, going to school is great, learn the skills, but if you don't get access or it doesn't work for you, because some people school doesn't work for them, don't give it up. You'll find a way through. And I'm the same way. I couldn't make college. I was bad at school. I hated school, but I learned to write on my own, and I made my way just like him on our own. And by the way, same neighborhoods coming up. I was the weird homie that used to bring books. People used to make fun of me. What's wrong with it? But that was my thing, and nobody hated me for it. That's his thing. Love books. Now I got books. Now we got a bookstore. You know what I'm saying? No matter what you do, don't give it up and get good at it. Get strong at it. There's a career way that you can carve your way through it. If you don't go to schools, the other thing about schools, and I agree with them, they do tend to make you look the same. And you got to be careful with that, because what makes his work stand out, nobody does work like this. It's his imprint, you know what I'm saying? It's like when I write, it's my writing. I don't write like anybody else, and I hope nobody ever writes like me, you know what I mean? We learn to have our own style. And that's what's important when you do it on your own. If you go to these schools, and I'm all for it, by the way, I'm not saying don't go to schools, but be careful, because they tend to stake your personal style out. You understand what I'm saying? They want you to be like others, and then you're just one dime a dozen. Well, he stands out because this is his style. This is what he does now.
But since then, I don't know. Now with like social media and stuff, it's like,
yeah, whole new world.
There's so much more.
Whole new world.
There's a lot. And like sometimes I go on Instagram, it's just so much to look at. It just blows your mind. Like I used to go to the library and check out like 3 books at a time and like just spend time with these books, you know. Diane Arbus, Bruce Davidson, Robert Frank. I look at these books, like even at the Los Angeles Public Library, you could go there. They have like great photography books, you know. You could, and that's the way I got influence, was looking at books, just like he said. But now it's Instagram. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure people are more into books. Maybe it's more of an underground thing, but I mean, everything's available online. Everything's available. I mean, there used to be like an underground of stuff when you were a kid. I mean, like just like music. You would hear a song on the radio and wow, what's that song? And you'd have to like listen to it again and like see what the DJ calls it, and then like you know what the song is, and then like you either go to the Music Plus and you buy it, or you gotta wait for it to come on again and you record it, you know. And but it's not like that anymore. Everything's available. Now they have like an app forever now. You could just find out what the song is, you know. And there were some books and some things that you couldn't find, and it was just you had to seek it out. You had to physically go get it, and now it's just everything's available. It's just things have just changed, and that's just the way it is.
Oh, right there.
When I go shooting, I struggle a lot with like self-doubt on whether or not I should pull out my camera.
Oh, that happens to me too all the time.
How'd you get over it? How do you get over it?
I still have it.
A lot of these situations from what I see in the shops, like the wrong person might get a camera towards them and they might flip. You know how he was saying, they might trip. How'd you get over that? Did you get over that?
Well, you know what? There was a time when I was a kid, and I said, I'm going to go to the mall, and I'm going to talk to 20 girls. And so I just got used to talking to people.
He does, man. He talks. That's how we met. He started talking to me. I didn't know this guy from nothing. But he talks. He gets in there. You put yourself in there. He does, and it was good. And he talked like people I grew up with. So I said, okay.
I mean, man, you know, sometimes, you know, I have like real bad social anxiety, you know, I had a signing at this other place, and it was just so packed and so many people. I just had to like concentrate on the book in front of me, and I couldn't look around, you know, because I think I would have had like a minor panic attack or something, you know. But you just got to keep going, you know. I mean,
it gets easier the more you do. Yeah, and I'll tell you, one other problem. Joseph Rodriguez did the book, the Eastside.
Eastside Stories.
Yeah, and
really good book.
He interviewed me and everything else, but here's one problem that I found out. He took pictures of a lot of homies, and one of them showed up and always running. So that guy, whose picture was on there, wanted to tax Joseph Rodriguez. He called me up. I don't know if you ever told it. He called me up. What should I do? I said, don't pay it. Don't do nothing. Don't get near it. Don't argue with the guy. Don't fight it. The picture's out there. Nobody's making money off this. Everybody thinks we're rolling in the dough. But the point is, don't let that happen. Don't let anybody mess with you. If you take pictures, people generally know you're taking pictures. You know, if they say no, don't take pictures. But generally, that's what you're gonna do. But don't let anybody come back to you later and say, "Hey, man, you're famous now because of my picture. I want to get paid." You know what I'm saying? You gotta be careful with that.
But see, there's art usage and editorial usage, which, you know, and then there's commercial. You know, I'm not doing anything for like a clothing brand or any brand, you know. So, I mean, even if something like that happened, they'd have to get a hold of the people and get permissions and all this stuff and whatever. But you know, it's something that crosses your mind, you know. But when I was taking my photos, I told everybody I was eventually going to make a book of all this stuff. And that was, I planned on doing that, you know. And it always had to be on the east side. And not all the people were Eastsiders, but it was the photos were in the Eastside, or they had to be Eastsiders, and I had friends that would joke around with me. Oh, I'll take pictures of this guy. I'm like, well, he's, and they would know. I'm like, well, that's that's not for this project, but they just joke around with me. But yeah, man. I mean, when it comes to feeling hesitant, like in a spontaneous situation of taking out your camera, I mean, I'm sure it happens to everyone and anyone still, You're not ever fully comfortable with it. If it's a job, then that's different, because you're there to do a photo shoot,
Any other questions?
I tend to try to talk to people too when situations like that happen, and sometimes I get caught up more in the conversation and the interaction, and I miss the opportunity, the photo op, and I kind of kick myself in the butt later. I'm like, damn, I should have got this, I should have got that.
Well, that happens, Sometimes I photograph something and I think it's gonna be great, and you look at it and it's not as great as you thought it was. Some things you photograph and I think it's nothing, and years later you look at it and oh wow, that's really something. I mean, sometimes just time and nostalgia makes something special. So, like sometimes, like my whole thing is I like photographing things that are special, that like nobody really photographed before, and like even before, like I was shooting this type of stuff, there were Joseph Rodriguez was photographing this type of stuff. There were other photographers. There's this one photographer I see on Instagram, Merrick Morton. He was doing like research for movies with Dennis Hopper, and he's an incredible photographer, and they're great photos. And like even like the one I really liked was Bruce Davidson. He did a book called Brooklyn Gang or New York Gang or something, and it's just a lot of pictures of like kids just kind of hanging out, I don't know. There's just some like influence there, and it's just there are people still photographing this type of thing, but if you get too caught up and you just want to photograph what's special, like maybe everything's being photographed now. But I mean, maybe you can find something, But I think photographing what's special and what's unique is will make it better, and not a lot of people were photographing this type of thing at that time, but now it's like, wow, it's like really blown up, like it's just something that's done, and people go into neighborhoods and there's people ready to be photographed, and
Stage it now too.
Yeah.
well, yeah, that happens too, I'm not saying those pictures are, it is what it is. I mean, even like when I first started taking pictures for money, like there was a record company who wanted me to kind of like reenact like these photos, you know what I mean? But you could never like reenact this. And like those pictures like I did for that record company, they'll never be as special and good as the spontaneous ones that are like in this book.
I think that's the biggest draw about the book is that it's authentic, and you don't portray yourself as anything that you're not, and that comes out in the
man, when I was photographing this project, and I had like 2 part-time jobs at one point. I was working at UPS graveyard shift, and I was working at a camera store part-time and trying to go to City College, and I would take pictures, and there was this dark room that this guy Tom would let me use in Pasadena. It was called the Dark Room Workshop, and I get my film and I make my own prints. I really learned how to do that, and just making my prints just was so much satisfaction, It's just, it was like the biggest thing. No one even looked at them. I just looked at them. Wow, this is great. So it gave me like an addiction to keep doing it. Like, and I kept printing my own pictures, and I kept on shooting pictures and trying to get material, and that's what this whole project is basically.
Now,
You know?
what we would like for you to do is to buy the book, have it. I know it's kind of, it might seem expensive, but to me, this book is an art collector's thing. This is not just any old book. We got a lot of books you can buy a lot cheaper. This is worth it. It's a limited edition. It's not going to be, at a certain point, they're not going to even publish it anymore. I do think it'd be good. So I want to get maybe one or two more questions, and then maybe we'll be around to
Oh, I gotta
sign.
sign some books too.
Yeah, we
Right?
signed some books up. So anybody, so let's get any other questions that people might have. I see a hand back there.
Yeah, good question. During the pandemic, did you feel like since everyone was home and when there was the actual lockdown, did you feel like it was easier to take more photos or harder because
I hated the masks.
yeah,
Like everybody was doing these projects with mask and the mask and the mask, and I'm like, you know what, man? And I had people come into my house. Look at these pictures of LA empty, and like everybody has these pictures of LA empty. Look at there's no one on the street. You know what I did during the? I painted my house and I made my back patio so like all my friends could hang out. Like I had this really cool back patio. And Jonathan, my neighbor, he's all, look, you have this great patio and no one ever uses it. You don't even use it. And like now he probably thinks I use it too much because I'm always back there. I fall asleep back there, watching the game.
Anybody
You know, this
else?
past World Cup, I watched so much soccer back there. It was incredible. I think I watched every game except for the ones that came out at 2 a.m. Huh.
You had your hand up. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really beautiful to see like your relationship with Eastside, the Eastside. So like now, after finishing this book, after seeing the neighborhood change, like how's your relationship with Eastside changed or grown?
I don't know. I just feel very at home there, you know. I feel very at home. There's things you're gonna love about it, and there's things you're not gonna love about it, just like anything else.
I have something to say. I grew up in Boyle Heights. I went to school in Eastsiders and Belvedere over there by
Yeah.
Fort Wayne
Yeah,
Place.
yeah.
And also, I went to school in Mendez right there in Aliso.
Yeah.
And from elementary to high school, I grew up in those areas. I had friends, hanged out, and I trip out because like growing up in a gang community and like witnessing violence, like I'm not tripping out seeing this because I moved out of Boyle Heights when I was 16, so my high school when I was living in Hawaii, you know. And then I came back, and then I saw how my whole community is, and I looked a lot about. I also traveled too. I went to North Dakota. I met a lot of tribes. I met many cultures. And one thing that shocks me the most is to see like border violence. So I'm just tripping. I just want to say that, but I'm happy to see both of you. I'm happy for Luis, the wisdom he speaks about, like raza and how like we're constantly being, like prosecuted. But I'm just I'm happy for your guys' work and your guys' teachings that you guys pass for the people.
Oh, thank you, man. Thank you. Yeah, it's just I guess like when it comes to the thing like violence, it's just something very human, you know. It's not just there; it's everywhere, every part of the world, every place. You know, I mean, it's just part of mankind.
The thing is to find the beauty in all the darkness, whatever ugliness, to find what really flowers out of the pavement, as they say, whatever. There's a lot of beauty in all that world, and I think he captures a lot of it too.
Yeah,
And that's important.
you know what? I'm glad he said that because you got to try to find the beauty. You know, there's people photographing certain things, like homelessness or people doing bad things, but but some things, I mean, I don't know if you could find the beauty in it, but if you can find the beauty in it and make it great, then that's something that's going to be good to look at, I guess, you know?
Yeah, I used to do this cholo tours all over the east side. And I would bring people from Japan, from England, from around the country, media people, Hollywood people, because they wanted to know. And then I had these people from Italy, and I had these homeboys that were with me, but they were cool, they were good, they were with me. And they wanted me to show us the gangsters shooting each other. So I don't do that. I mean, I call it a cholo tour just to be funny. It's really just people. I don't go do this so that people can see people hurt each other. But it just so happened that we were sitting right there in East LA somewhere, and we were having some tacos, and sure enough, there was a drive-by shooting, and they were so busy in their tacos, they didn't know that that was happening, but I didn't even tell them. I just kept it quiet, so I don't even want to let anyone know what's happening there. It was going on in front of me, I could see it. There was some guy came up to a car, started shooting in the car, that car went out and started chasing this guy, and they missed it completely. They missed it, and I didn't even want to tell them. You know, I'm not even gonna tell them. You know, I don't want them to be. So you just got to know what people are looking for, what you want. I personally, I'm not going out there trying to get people to see the worst. If it happens and they're there, hey, it happens.
I like that tour thing. You know, at Disneyland, my favorite ride is the Jungle Cruise. And like I like to go when it's raining because no one's there, and I get in line like 10 times because I want to get everybody tour. Right? No, I really do this. Like the part where there used to be the cannibals, he says, oh, he one time invited me to dinner, and I was eating the food, and I said, this is so good, this food is so good. And then he said, I really miss my wife. So like, you know, these guys have, these guys, and all like one of the tour guys goes, see those butterflies? Sometimes I can't believe those aren't real butterflies. You know, it's just really stupid jokes and everything, but I love the tour. But see, this is something like, you were telling me the tour is something like you can make something, you can make it, it could be something funny, I guess.
Just one last thing, when it comes to photography, and I'm fortunate because of who I am. I've been photographed by a lot of well-known people. Sometimes in major magazines. I'm an ugly dude, but it's just because I'm
Man,
well
you're
known.
handsome.
But what happens is, even the Face magazine.
Don't say that about my friend.
The Face magazine, which is big in Europe and England, is a modeling magazine.
Oh my God, that's a great magazine.
They
The
had me
Face?
pictured in there.
Oh my God.
And so, and even people in France. But I'll tell you one thing. He's one of my favorite photographers.
Oh, well,
he's
thank you.
photographed me, and I really.
The first time,
love
I
what
think
he
the
does.
first, I photographed him for a profile photo for something. I think for one of his books or something. And I'd already know who he was because I read his book, you know, and like I tell you, like the Garvey Park thing with the plunge is one of my childhood memories that I never forget. And I don't know, I just connect Luis with that book in that neighborhood. And yeah, I'm just, you know, when I first read his book, who would have known I would be here, right here at this place with him talking about my book. I mean, it's just really something. I'm really
and
happy
even
about
just
it.
to have a place like this that we can do this, to share the beauty and the work of somebody like him. Having a place like this to me is the key to everything. Everything I have done culminates here. You know what I'm saying? It's not even about my book or even about, but just to have a place where some guy like Gregory can be here, where y'all can share and talk and see. That to me makes it worthwhile. Having kids come in, we've had field trips, students come here. They need to know a place like this. I wish there was places like this in every neighborhood in their own way. So anyway, thank you for being
That'll
here.
be awesome. Thank you, Luis.
Thank you, Gregory. Thank you for being here. Buy books. If you got books, we'll be here to sign. He was really going to be signed. I'll sign some.
He should sign the books too. He's the famous guy.
Yeah, but I also wrote the forward. But the main thing is
I just take photos.
But please enjoy. Check out the other stuff. Thank you for being here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.